Hello everyone. Today I'm doing a video of this circa 1920 Frigid model VA-1 10-inch 2-speed desk fan. I actually picked this fan up while I was living overseas in New Zealand off an auction site there in very rough condition. This cage was mangled, the blades had green in a couple spots from the amount of corrosion on it, and it probably had maybe 10% of the original paint remaining on the cast iron surfaces. The rest was all rust. It was completely seized up, like the blade would not even turn. I would not be surprised if it had been used as a doorstop outside for the last 50 years. So the fan was rough. I paid more than I probably should have, but with early cool fans like this that I don't have, I guess I'm not looking to make money on these things. I just do it for fun, so I guess I don't care too much about what they cost. Anyway, I completely restored this fan. It may not really look like it right now, but that's because I went for an aged restoration. The brass was pretty heavily pitted. It would have taken a very long time of sanding to get it polished, and I've said before in videos, but I tend to prefer my fans in an original or aged look. So I'll get to that in a moment here. Turn it to the side here. These fans were made for a while. These are the earliest variants, the VA-1. They also made a VA-2, and there was a later variant that was also an oscillator and had 3 steel blades. I believe they were made maybe up into the 30s. These were made in Belgium. If I didn't get to that, the Frigid company was based out of Belgium. And they seem to have gotten around. I've seen a couple of these here in the US. I've heard of a couple being in the UK. But they're still not a very common fan. Turn it to the back here. The only thing that I did not do myself on this restoration was make the brushes and brush caps. Those were made by very talented machinist Daryl Hudson. He's part of the Antique Fan Collectors Association, and I sent him one of the originals that remained on this one that was crumbling, and he made me 2 identical original brush caps and brushes, which is, his talent is remarkable. As far as the parts he machines for these fans, they're very well done. I'm a big fan of the open commutator design there. And the paint that I used on the fan was just regular Rust-Oleum appliance epoxy. When I had wire wheeled and removed all the rust on this fan, there was so much pitting on this section of the base particularly that it just would have looked horrible if I had just simply repainted it. So I used auto body filler on a lot of those pits, ground down everything, especially around this bevel here, as there were a few sections where it was just rusted away. And I think it came out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the results. Electrically, it's all original. It was a miracle that anything electrical on this fan survived, considering its exposure, but it runs beautifully on both speeds and within spec. Closer shot of the tag there. Unfortunately, there is a small crack there by where it says Belgium. I reinforced it with a little bit of JB weld that I ground flat, but that'll at least keep it a little protected. You'll notice the little traces of red there on the tag. When I restored this fan, everything had to be cleaned. I cleaned the brass until it was shiny again, which is when I noticed the pits. What I then did was I restored this tag as they would have looked originally. All that background would have been painted black, all the little inset letters and everything, and the Frigid name was red. After repainting it, I used, I want to say it was a solution of ammonia and something else in a plastic tub, where I suspended these parts above it for a certain amount of time, which the ammonia vapors would then patina the brass very quickly through a chemical reaction, chemical oxidation. And that also softened the paint, and I wiped it off in a few areas so that it looks like it was worn away. That's what I did for the rest of the brass as well, and I think it came out well. The cage I rebuilt, I completely unsoldered everything on there and took it apart to just the bare S-wires and the rings. I made 2 new S-wires that were missing, and then I resoldered the entire cage and aged it. Now you'll notice here, this was done after the fact. Actually, recently, a couple months ago, one of the original struts had broken on the fan. It was cracked right there. And I'd used JB Weld to repair it. Pretty poor repair. It didn't hold up, and it ended up cracking again. And I managed to source some brass stock on Amazon, of all places, that was the same thickness, about 2 millimeters. And I formed a new strut there, just like the originals. And it works well. At some point I'll age it, but for now I've just left it as it is. But this is probably one of my favorite 10-inch fans in my collection. I just think it's a very cool looking piece. Yeah, it's fairly late, around 1920, but it still has a lot of the earlier style fan look to it from probably turn of the century. But anyway, I'll start it up here on low. I haven't run it much since resurfacing the commutator and getting the new brushes and all that, so I probably need to actually run it a while to break it in, but it is a very smooth running fan. And turn it up to high. Back to low. Not a lot of difference in the speeds, but I wouldn't expect there to be. These were made back when lower line voltages were common. And of course, off. All right, thanks for watching.